Hi, I'm Peter Dixon. I'm delighted to be speaking to you today at Best of Belfast.
Peter Dixon, thank you very much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Delighted to be here.
I would love to start with actually your favourite quote, which you so generously give before the interview. It's a great quote. I think it's a great place to start. And that is, it's Mark Twain quote. And it says, the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. Do you remember, maybe not exactly a day, but do you remember whenever you started to figure out your why?
It's a really good question, and I guess I was about 27, and I normally I would see a lot of young people come round to the house, talk about what they want to do after university or during university. I always say to people, look, you're not really any use to anyone until you're about 27, because until then, you're just gathering knowledge, expertise, information, and how to do things. And some people gather that by going to university and doing a degree which is relevant to the things that they think they want to do in the future. Some people do that through apprenticeships. Some people do that through learning on a job, any job. And it doesn't really matter what that is. But when I was about 27, I'd been an apprentice, I'd been a gas fitter, I'd been a welder. I'd done a whole host of different jobs, and I'd become a supervisor. I'd got asked to stand in for a week or two while the supervisor was off sick, looking after about 40 guys who were doing industrial commercial gas work. And I thought to myself, I'm good at organising people. I'm good at getting people to do things that need doing and they maybe don't want to do. And I think that's when the light bulb came on for me. And I said, this is really interesting.
That's really encouraging for me. I'm 24. So I'm like, yes, I've still got 3 years to gather the experience. It's good. It's really good. You started off as a fitter and a welder.
So I was brought up in Liverpool, Irish Catholic family, left school when I was 16, no qualifications. I lived in an area which was, it didn't have anything going for it. Lovely people, but it'd been built for supplying manufacturing jobs for factories that had all disappeared in the 60s and 70s. And we were processed through a comprehensive school education. And in my view, a comprehensive school education is designed to treat everyone the same, but fail everyone equally. And at 16, I left school. No CSEs, no GCSEs, or O levels as we called them then days, just because the school had processed us through. Most people I knew either went on the dole, went in the army, or didn't get a job. And I was really fortunate, mainly my mum's idea. She'd said to me, well, look, why don't you apply for an apprenticeship with what was then the Liverpool Gas Company? No real chance of getting in because they were looking for people with qualifications. Sat the tests, got through the medical, went for an interview and got a job. I didn't realise later on that they weren't looking for the cleverest kids in the world, and they weren't looking for kids who were the base level. They were looking for kids in the middle that would stay and do a job for life.
Nice.
And I got a job at 16, an apprentice gas fitter. What I didn't realise at that time, that was taking me on a journey away from where I was to other places. It immediately got me working with adults, which is a big change in your life. And it started giving me a second level education again. I mean, it was a full apprenticeship where you went through, you had to read and write and all the things that you wouldn't associate with just gas fitting. Done that till I was 19, came out of my time, was qualified, City and Guilds, and then worked in domestic properties for a couple of years, and then got an opportunity to go on to industrial commercial work. And it was funny, because a guy came into, there was 50 of us, 50 engineers in our depot in the morning. He said, look, we're looking for volunteers to go, it's about 40 miles away, work on industrial commercial work in Warrington. Is anyone interested? And I put my hand up. And I was the only person in the room that put my hand up.
Why'd you put that hand
And
up?
everyone went, oh, what would you go there for? You don't know what it's about. And I just thought, this sounds different. This sounds like something I've never done before. And it really was an opportunity. What I hadn't realised at the time is that opportunities come dressed as overalls looking like hard work. And this is why other people hadn't put their hand up.
Yeah.
Went, got there, it was fantastic. It was a real engineering-based operation, still part of British Gas. Got an opportunity then to become a coded welder, work on big pipelines, out on the ground in factories, totally different type of work. And that led me to other opportunities to when I was about 27, where I then picked up the opportunity to go into what would be first level management or supervision, having been technically trained and technically developed up until that age, basically.
I think what I love about what you were doing in those years is you were obviously working with your hands a lot, but you were working extensively with people and all sorts of people in their homes, and you clearly were probably naturally very, very personable, but I assume you learned a lot in terms of how to talk to people and how to be...
Well, I had three things going for me. One, I could fix anything with my hands. And secondly, I was good at problem solving. I was probably a natural engineer in that I could see how things could be done. So rather than people say, well, we'll never be able to do that, I used to say, look, we can put a man on the moon. We can get this pipe where we need it to go. So I could always see what the right way was, or a way of getting things done. The second thing is, I was good with people. I'd like to think I was personal. I was obviously, I would assume, a good communicator, because I went on to look after lots of different individuals. And last but not least, I kind of knew, or thought I knew, what the right way of getting things done was. In those early days, I was the shop steward as well. So even though I was in management, I was the shop steward, and I was prepared to challenge management on things that were getting done and things that were coming in. So it was a whole mix of learning how to get things done, learning how to work with people, and learning how to problem solve, whatever it takes to get it done. I kind of gathered all those skills up. I also got the opportunity to get a second level education, which I'd missed out on at school. And I also got the confidence not to allow my lack of education to hold me down going forward. The fact that I didn't have a degree, I didn't have GCSEs, I didn't have A levels, which makes you feel like a second-class citizen. I started to move out of that shadow and find that if I could put that in a box, that wouldn't be the most important thing in the world. There was other things to get things done.
Definitely. You also strike me as someone who is quite boots on the ground. And how did you miss working with your hands as you started to climb up into more management and senior roles in the companies that you were involved with?
I mean, funny enough, I didn't. I loved every job I've ever done.
Yeah.
So I loved it when I was a gas fitter.
Yeah.
And I was fitting central heating in people's houses. I loved it when I was a welder and I was putting, maybe sometimes 3, 4, 5 miles of pipe in factories. And I enjoyed every challenge that. But as I moved away from each job, I tended not to look back or hark after the things I'd done. I took them away and said, I love that. I'm now doing something different. And boots on the ground is a good way of doing things, and understanding things. I'm a great believer of, you only can get things done if you got first-hand experience of the way things happen to get them done. It's no good really getting feedback anyone else. You need to go and find out for yourself. Now, whether you're building a utility in Northern Ireland for the first time in its history, or whether you're putting new pipework into a factory that's never had natural gas before, whether that's dealing with putting new processes in to companies, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You need to absorb yourself in what the issues are, what the challenges are, and what the answers are to overcome those problems.
Yeah. So talk to me about bringing gas to Northern Ireland, because you know what I mean. The talk about boots on the ground. I was joking with you in the coffee shop there that it's really exciting for me to sit down with someone who played a massive role in bringing gas to my street every time I go and I, you know, top up my wee gas card and plug it into the meter and everything. You know, you've played a role in that. But talk to me about some of the memories or the experiences of you being on the ground dealing with people in the 90s.
Well, first of all, I mean, before 1996, there was no natural gas in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
And before 1996, I wasn't in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
And I had no plans to be in Northern Ireland, although I was very aware of Northern Ireland and its activities and the challenges that it faced. But what happened is, in British Gas, which had at the time about 300,000 employees and almost 34 levels in the company, at 27, I was at the second or third level in the organisation.
Wow.
And between then and about 34, 35, I was put through a number of fast-track programmes, through management schemes, through management and development. And I found myself at about level 29, level 30 in the organisation. I was sent down to an organisation called Cooper's Lybrand, which is now PwC, in Buckinghamshire, to one of their management schools for about 6 weeks.
Nice.
And we were basically PAs to managing directors within the British Gas Group. And this was their form of Top Gun. They had about 35 senior, we were really senior people at them, boys and girls from all over the world over, because British Gas was the largest and most successful gas company in the world at that stage, under its global gas arm. And we sat through a whole plethora of exams and activities and schemes to see where we would go next in the organisation. At the end of that programme, 6 of us were selected from about 35, 36. And they sat us in a room and they basically went round and said, Joan, we want you to go to Buenos Aires. Frankie, we want you to go to India. Jimmy, we want you to go to New York. And as they went round the room, they then came to me. And they said, Peter, we'd like to see you privately. Oh, right. Okay. What's this about? And everyone left the room. And all these people had gone to schools like Marlborough, Harrow, Gordonston, Clifton College. You never met these people. And they came in the room and they said, right, Peter, we have a special opportunity for you, and which we don't think will suit the other people we have. And by the way, you've done very well on the scheme. You've come second overall in the programme, so well done, because you don't have their background. Oh, that's very good. And they said, we would like you to go to Belfast. And I can remember looking at them thinking, Belfast. Well, where's Belfast? Now, I didn't think, I kind of dismissed Northern Ireland because I knew Northern Ireland didn't have natural gas and there was obviously other issues here. And I obviously just thought it was Australia because obviously there's a Newry in Australia, there's a Dungannon. Yeah. So I kind of went, Belfast, where's Belfast? And they went, they kept on looking at my sheet, the scores, like to say, is this guy stupid? You know, and I said, and they went, Northern Ireland. I said, are you wanting to go to Belfast in Northern Ireland? And they said, oh, yes. We're taking natural gas there. And all the people who'd been given jobs that had left the room had all become managing directors or CEOs of these companies. They'd like you to go as the commercial director. And I said, well, hang on a minute, you said I've done really well on the scheme. Yeah. You now want me to go to Northern Ireland, and I'm going as the commercial director, which sounds like a sideways
How did I get this straw? Yeah.
That doesn't see. And they said, look, it's we need a particular type of person to go and do it, and we believe that you fit the bill. It is the path least travelled, but we believe this will be a job that will take you wherever you need to go, and you're the right person for us to go and do it. So in 1996, I got the boat from Liverpool. I was working in London at the time, and I shared a room with 3 truck drivers because no one had got me a separate berth. And I was quite senior in British Gas, and it was quite funny because I knew one of the truck drivers. And I landed at Belfast docks, I drove up to, we were in Great Victoria Street then, and I came to Northern Ireland, and our task was to make natural gas available to over 350,000 homes and businesses over time, and to convert people who were using coal and oil and LPG, all very good fuels at the time, and electric, to natural gas. Never been done anywhere in the world before. It was the first time a greenfield development of a utility had been attempted. And we were going to do that in the backdrop of a Northern Ireland that was coming out of conflict and wanted to rejuvenate itself. So we had to bring a new product to a new place that people knew nothing about, and at the same time take it under the highways and byways, streets and avenues of busy Northern Ireland.
Yeah, and then there's also that small fact where Northern Ireland doesn't produce any gas, so how on earth do you get it there?
We had to bring a pipe across the Irish Sea. We had to bring a transmission pipeline over from Scotland, beach that up by Larne, and then bring that down to what you call a city gate operation, break that down from high pressure, and basically yard by yard, inch by inch, kilometre by kilometre, make gas available from what we call the wellhead, where it comes from, to the burner tip in people's houses. And gas was as strange as saying to someone in the 60s what an iPhone was. It was like saying to someone in the 60s, this is what the internet is. This is what a blog is. This is what YouTube is.
Yeah,
and
this
they
is a
looked like you had two heads. This is what a podcast is. In fact, when you said to me we're doing a podcast, I had that same look on my face. And then I said to people, we have natural gas. And they were like, natural gas, what's that? And, so it was all those things. And it was, in a way, it was frightening.
Yeah.
The size of the challenge.
I love that picture of you in the berth with the truck drivers.
And the orange blanket. I can remember it like it was yesterday.
That's class. But this was probably a repeating pattern where you were, like we said earlier, boots on the ground, and people had no idea you were so senior. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, we get these jobs, and we are so fortunate to have them. I mean, it's an honour to have them. And if you think about it, when you're given a really senior job, or a job where you've got to make natural gas available and make it successful, in Northern Ireland's case, having natural gas has been able to retain and create tens of thousands of jobs, literally. I mean, you think of all the manufacturing jobs or all the commercial jobs that would have disappeared from Northern Ireland now if natural gas, a cleaner, cheaper fuel, had not been made available to those businesses.
Yeah.
If you think of the tens of thousands of jobs that the gas industry has created, and if you think of the fact that we've been able to spring Northern Ireland forward in terms of having a fuel for the future to its fingertips, then getting senior jobs sounds great, but it's not about you. It's about the responsibility you have, A, to make the task you've been given successful, and to look after the livelihoods of the people that work for you and the company that you're there to manage. If you think about everyone's dreams of what they're doing with their children, their holidays, anything they buy, the life that they live comes from the money that they earn at work. And as a boss of a company, you have a greater responsibility that people can possibly fathom of looking after all of those people and looking after the dreams they have and making that company successful and delivering what the investors and shareholders want, because obviously they've put money in to a company to be successful so they can make money. And yes, it's not about, someone once told me, it's not about being in charge. I suppose it's about looking after the people who are in your charge.
Yeah.
Is the way you should look at it in a senior job. I suppose I've always looked at it that way. I think if you can keep ego under control, which is very difficult to do, and I think most of us fail some of the time, then that's half the way to go. And in fact, it's most of the way of going, because you need ability as well to being a good boss.
How do you keep your ego in check?
I think you have to think of yourself as small all the time. I think you have to think of yourself as being just part of a bigger team. I think the most successful CEOs I've ever seen know that they are not the brightest and cleverest person in the room. They often employ people to work with them in the other directors' jobs that are better than them, certainly better at their jobs. And certainly they have skills that they don't have. And they're quite happy to almost run the business as a pack of wolves. Yes, there'll be times where, you know, everyone might have a suggestion and the boss has to make a decision. But the boss should be making the decision based on the right way forward, not the boss's way forward. And you can only do that with great people around you who will challenge you, who know more about their job than you do. And therefore you are reliant upon them. You know, we're like bricks in the wall.
Yeah.
If the bottom ones aren't right, the top ones are no good. And that's the same as any business. And I think you keep your ego in check by thinking, I mean, first of all, I do it by thinking how lucky I am in the jobs that I've had and I have now. And also realizing that the people around me are more important than I am.
You're talking there a lot about leadership almost through the lens of serving people and being responsible for them.
Oh, yes. A great boss is the best servant in the room, basically. I've always believed that my job is I am a servant, whether I'm a CEO, whether I'm an advisor, whether I'm a chairman of a business. My job is to serve. And the reason is servants the great thing about servants are they anticipate what is wanted from them next. Now, whether that's the person they serve, the community they serve, the sector they serve, the industry they serve, and they constantly look ahead and they say, what am I going to ask for next? What do I need to do next? What do I need to be prepared for? And servants, by their nature, are great anticipators. They should know what is required of them before it's asked of them. And I think that is always the cornerstone of what a good CEO or chairman is. They are servants. There's always a bigger fish. There's always someone more important than you. And your importance isn't the important thing.
So break that down for me on kind of more of a micro level. So I live on a street that has 2 up, 2 down, red brick, terrace houses. Sally on my street, who's in her 60s. How did you serve her in the 90s? How did you convince her to basically adopt gas? Because you're digging up the road and you're making a noise and you're making a mess.
We're the biggest nuisance in the world.
And you know, and who's this English guy coming into my street? So give me some examples, some stories, some memories of kind of more on the personal level.
Well, I'll give you 2 stories. First of all, the only way to sell something new to people is to be on the ground and answer their questions and show them what it is. And what we did is we spent loads of time as a group. I don't say we, I mean me as well. We went into community centres, we went into local people's houses, we went into groups, and we got people together. And the people that would come to those things are always the opinion formers, are always the people that will influence other people. And they're the first starters, if you like.
Yes, the influencers, the early adopters.
The early adopters. And we would say, right, look, we're bringing natural gas. Okay, tell me what that means. Well, you know, and we would explain how we physically get gas to the house, what that means compared to the fuel that they had. And we always took a stance that we never told anyone that the fuel that they had was no good. Because why would you come along, knock on someone's house and say, hey, you're really stupid, you've got oil, coal and LPG, when natural gas is the best thing since sliced bread? Because people were using what was available. Oil is a fantastic product, as is LPG, as is electric, and as is coal. However, everything has its day. And natural gas had other features. It was convenient, it was clean, it had significant environmental benefits, and in most cases, it allowed people to run their home less expensively with natural gas than anything else. And what we would do, we would tell people over and over again what the benefits of natural gas were, how we will get it to their property, and we would then help them, as we still do today, walk through how to get connected to natural gas, how to make it easy to have natural gas in their house, and we would link them with a gas installer. We didn't do that work ourselves. We had their local plumber do the work, who we'd already taken through developing how to use natural gas and how to install natural gas, and how natural gas was utilised. And then people made that change. So they made that conversion, and those same people converted other people by saying, you know, we've had natural gas in, this is what it does for us, it's great. It was 99% of people had a fantastic experience, and they became the best salespeople that we had. The installers that we'd help convert from being oil installers and coal installers to natural gas installers, they became the best salespeople we had. And, you know, there's now over 500 local companies involved in the gas industry who rise and fall every day by their own success.
Yeah.
They pick up the tool bag, they pick up their equipment, they put it in the back of the van, and they go out and they make natural gas available to people. Not Phoenix Natural Gas. They are the heartbeat of the industry, and they're the people that really are the heroes of natural gas being available in Northern Ireland, because they're the people who've overcome the challenges to physically install it, people's questions, and above all, to do a great job. And that's what we did, road by road, street corner by street corner. And once we then said, right, this is how we first of all introduce people to fuel, on a face-to-face basis. This is how we get the people to install and who will install. We then just said, right, that is how we will do this, road by road. And it hasn't changed today. So it took us a couple of years to get that right. Mm-hmm. But since then, every day and every week that the sales and the installation and the connection teams of Phoenix go in, they stick to the same plan. They do every single road the way we've done the last road.
Wow. People
don't change things. We have a winning formula, mm-hmm. and we take on board any problems that we cause, mm-hmm. and they become the biggest thing to put right. And since natural gas was made available in 1996, and we're just talking about gas because we're talking about Northern Ireland, we've made gas available to about 330,000 of those 350,000 properties, which is a huge engineering task in itself. It's probably the biggest engineering task since the railways were developed 250 years ago. Secondly, of those 330,000 homes and businesses, in excess of 210,000 of them now use natural gas. Yeah. So way over 2/3. And over 200 homes and businesses every week in, week out, connect to natural gas. And actually, on average, I think about 230 homes and businesses a week have connected to natural gas ever since we really got that winning formula in place. So this week, there'll be another 220 new natural gas customers using gas, which is on their doorstep. And there are other people that have got gas on their doorstep that haven't converted yet, but will go through that same program.
Yeah. I'm curious, how did you personally fit into Northern Ireland, into this place that you probably never in your life saw yourself settling, never mind living for so long?
Well, I think I'd said to you earlier when I came in, you know, I grew up in an Irish Catholic family in Liverpool, and Liverpool, as most people say, is the capital of Ireland anyway. So coming to Northern Ireland was funny because most of the people I met had the names of the kids that lived in our road.
Interesting.
I went to school with. Yeah. And when you go to London or places like that, people have different names. Mm-hmm. They don't have names. Also, people were quite similar to Liverpudlians in that they were friendly. They were funny. They were willing to take you on face value as long as they felt you were normal. Obviously, with my accent, then people won't associate someone with my accent as being the boss. Yeah. Because it's not normal in business. And so therefore, people would just take you on face value, if you were talking to them. And, someone once said that 50% of the world claim to be Irish and the other 50% don't. So therefore, there aren't a lot of Irish people. Yeah. And whether that's Northern Irish, whether that's Irish in the global sense. Yeah. And, having come from a council estate, but having then lived in London and other different areas, I just like to think I blended in. I'll always be a blow-in, and they've been here 23 years now, and I will stay here. We will, this is our home.
Yeah.
It just seemed normal. It just seemed a progression of where I lived before, but I felt settled. I suppose I felt I'd come home to a degree.
Do you feel like Liverpool shares the same like underdog culture where they
Yes,
love rooting
definitely.
for the...
Yes, it has that underdog feel about it, and and that's what's made Northern Ireland so successful over many, many years. We're a little place, but if you look at the fantastic industries and businesses we've had over the years, some of them were 100 years ago, but if you look at our tech industry now, we're fighting way above our weight. If you take Ormo back to where we're in today, who'd have thought 20 years ago, 30 years or even 10 years ago, this would be such a successful hub for entrepreneurial tech businesses leading the way in a global sector. And that goes for when you go down to the Titanic Quarter. All these people, all these areas are just full of Northern Irish people who are keen to demonstrate that they're as good as anyone else.
Yeah.
And I think that underdog nature is what drives them on.
Yeah. I want to switch gears slightly here. As we start to kind of land the plane of these interviews, we always ask a couple of stock questions, also focus a little bit more personally on yourself and things you've learned along the way. This is a leadership series. We've talked a lot about leadership already. One of the things I'd like to hear your thoughts on is, what did you find personally the most difficult aspect to leadership? Was there a part of it that you individually maybe struggled with or took you a while to get right?
I mean, I think there's three things there. I mean, one, if you have a lack of formal education when you leave school, you will always carry that heavily on your shoulders the rest of your life, because you carry a good education lightly, and you'll always be, feel like a second-class citizen, and you have to get over that. And it doesn't matter whether you go and get educated at night school like I did. It's never really a proper education. It's the same as not going to a grammar school. If you've not had a middle-class upbringing and a grammar school education, whilst you might become successful in business, and success comes in many ways, whether it's the job you've had or the financial rewards, actually moving between sectors, moving between social levels and barriers isn't easy, in that you might find yourself very senior with lots of experience and very well off, but you will always feel a stranger in a strange land because you didn't come from that place in the first place. And that is a challenge for leadership. The second thing is I always wanted to try and stay who I am, whether that's the way I think things through, where I come from, whether it's my accent, or whether it's the group of people I want to associate myself with. And that's not easy, because when you go into senior leadership positions, you sometimes may find yourself wanting to be someone else, wanting to sound like someone else, wanting to be someone else that people think you should be. And that's a difficulty, in that you obviously have got to gather up all the nuances of your wisdom and experience in the different roles and jobs you've been in. But if you can kind of keep being yourself, you move to the third most important thing about leadership, in my view, and that's always being true to yourself. If you're always you, in other words, under pressure or not under pressure, you're always going to be you, then you're not going to let people down because they see what they get. You're not all of a sudden going to be someone else. You're not also going to buckle and the real you comes out, because actually it's been a fake you that's been carrying this job forward or these challenges forward. And, my wish is always to remain me. Now, the downside with that, of course, is that some people won't like you for that. You won't fit into the stereotype. You know, you won't. You may not be the top of the honours list for people because, you know, oh, that's that chap who has a very strong Liverpool accent. And yes, we don't really know what he's done, but yes, he's not one of us. So wanting to be yourself rather than be part of the group is, I think, a cornerstone to it. And they were the challenges for me. And now I'm an old man. You know, I turn 60 in the next 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Which is a big change in your life because your body starts to fall to bits and your working career is mainly behind you. I'm lucky where I still do a number of things which are interesting. I'm now fortunate where I've no longer got to worry about whether I've done the right thing or not, because it doesn't matter now anymore because I'm yesterday's person. And the great thing I like about where I am now in terms of leadership, I spend most of my year when I'm not working, seeing between 20 and maybe 30 young people between 18, 16 and 24, say, who are wondering about what they should do, how they should prepare their CV, what work experience they need to get to be able to sell themselves going forward, what kind of jobs they go in. And it's mainly people's friends and family who say, Peter, will you ever talk to our John or Matthew or Frank or Joan or Amy, because it doesn't matter as parents how you tell your kids. You take no notice of your parents, and some you know, but they might take notice of me, and I will walk them through what's worked for other people, and that to me is how I sell to myself. Why my brand of leadership has been successful for me, because if I can see those people go on and find a job that they enjoy, find why they're here, make the most of the skills and the abilities that they've got, then as an old man or an old person at the end of their usefulness, then it's almost passing on the torch to someone else. And hopefully they'll be those leaders of the future who understands that ego is not important, who understands that being themselves is the most important thing.
Yeah. There's a quote I wrote down from a YouTube video you did as part of the Entrepreneur of the Year. And it's a great quote. Don't know if you remember saying it, but I would love to hear your thoughts on it. And you said, the dreams of youth can become the regrets of maturity. And I'm wondering, were there any dreams in your youth that you have achieved? And is there anything still sitting there that you're eager to chase after?
I do remember saying the quote, and I'm always reminded of it. There's also a great YouTube clip that people who are listening to this blog should go in and watch or listen to. And it's by Arnold Schwarzenegger, most unlikely leader that we might think of, but someone who has achieved far more than most. And he has 5 steps to success, which I think ties into this quote. He says, 1, have a goal. 2, think big. 3, ignore the naysayers. 4, work your ass off. And 5, when you make it, give back. And what he's basically saying there is, you know, when you're young, you can do anything. Don't let anyone talk you out of it. And, you know, if you want to buy a flashy car, go and buy it. If you want to buy pointy-toe shoes that your mum and dad don't like, go and buy them. If you want to do a job which everyone tells you isn't right, but you believe it's right for you, go and do it. Because you'll not get that time back. And when you get older and you get past 27 and you get to 30, you start having responsibilities like boyfriends, girlfriends, partners, houses, how do I get to work? And all these things will hold you back from the dreams that you had when you were young. In terms of, and that's where that quote comes from. Go and do them now. Go and be the best cameraman you can be.
Yeah. Go
and be the best blog designer or the best blog creator in the world now, before someone says it's not a real job. Because that's what older people will say to you. And in terms of how does that relate to me? Well, I guess that I had no real dreams when I was young. I was fortunate where I had a great family. I had a great mum and dad, and my mum's still alive, and she still reminds me every day that she got me the job in the gas board, and she's right. And you know, I exceeded my dreams when I was 27.
Mm-hmm.
When I became a supervisor, having been a very good welder, I think a very good gas fitter, I exceeded all those things. I was fortunate also that I'd done other things in my life. So, you know, my dreams are exceeded. And to work alongside people now who've had fantastic educations, who have gone to the best universities in the world, and for them to see me as in their peer group, then, you know, that's a dream come true for me. I'm hopefully healthy, and I have the opportunity to pass on some of my wisdom to people locally and wider through this blog, which is great. So, do I have regrets? No, because life for me has been fantastic, and it's gone way beyond, it exceeded any dreams I might have had.
Yeah, yeah. One of the questions we ask every single guest we have in this room is, tell us about the most successful moment of your life, or something that you are just really, really proud of. We love asking Northern Irish people that because of the whole underdog, chip on the shoulder, who do you think you are sort of culture.
I think the most successful, I mean, it's funny actually. One of the things I was always very elated about was pass me driving test. I don't know what anyone else thinks. I thought it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And I could buy a car. I bought a car for £120.
Amazing.
The next day I was 17. I was the only person in where I lived who was my age who had a car, and I'd saved up, and I'd done all kinds of little jobs. And I think I never felt so elated as that. I think the second thing is I suppose when I came to Northern Ireland, I got the opportunity to do something great, do something that would make an everlasting change to Northern Ireland itself and people's lives. And when I was given the opportunity to become the CEO, it was breathtaking. Even though I'd come with the express opportunity that the chance was there for me to do it, I suppose I never ever dreamt that I would get the job. And I was in the job for 15 years. I loved every minute of the job. And that probably took my breath away, in that I felt then I could make a difference. And I'd like to think I have. Some people say I have, some people say I haven't, some people will like it, some people won't. And you have to get beyond that, really.
Yeah.
And I've had a fantastic life in Northern Ireland, got fantastic friends, and I'm grateful for every moment I've been given.
The flip side of that question we always like to ask is, tell us about the most challenging moment of your life, or a great challenge you overcame and how you were able to do it.
I think the most challenging moment, relating it to work, I think, is helpful, I think, for this particular blog. I remember I was 27. I'd been a supervisor for some time, and I went to headquarters. I was given the opportunity on a secondment to go to headquarters in a business development role, which was strange for me, coming off the tools, because I had no idea what it was, and it was working with, just as computerization was coming in. You know, computers didn't exist until then. And I'd been doing this secondment for about a year or two. I felt I was quite competent. I was as good as the people in the office who sat next to me, if not better. And I went for an interview for a job. It was an operations manager's job. And it was quite senior. It was 34 levels, as I said, in the organisation, and this was about level 10. And I was seconded into a level 5 job, but I'd been selected for an interview for this ops manager's job, which was right up my street, because I've always been an ops guy.
Yeah.
You know, I am on the knuckle duster end of the business.
Yeah.
Getting things done. And I went for the interview, and at the end of the interview, I thought it went well. I answered all the questions, and I got a call saying, you never got the job. And I asked, well, could they have some feedback? And I went for some feedback, and the guy sitting in front of me said, there's 3 things. He said, 1, this job you've applied for is going to be beyond your ability to get because you have no formal education and you have a very strong Liverpool accent. And the people that you're up against are all graduates who came into British Gas on the graduate programme, and you should start looking around at other opportunities. And I walked out that room and I thought to myself, it doesn't matter how hard I work, it doesn't matter what I can get done, it doesn't matter if I can make things happen. You know, where does that leave me? Have I got to go back on the tools? And that was fine because, you know, I earned more money actually when I was on the tools than I was in the seconded job. And I remember for about a week or two thinking, you know, well, that can't be right. And then other things I was doing outside of work, I'd progressed in. And I thought, well, if I can progress in them, which is a far more difficult environment than this is, I can in this. And I didn't give up. And I got beyond that black dog being on my shoulder, which was really someone basically saying to me, you're trying to move out of where you should be in terms of socially and educationally and managerially, and you're not going to be able to do it. And later on, when that person, I think 4 years later, they were at level 22 in the organisation. I was at level 28 and they applied for the job for me. Actually, they were a good person for the job, but I reminded them afterwards what they'd said to me and what the impact it had on me.
Wow.
I don't think, maybe it didn't mean anything to them.
Yeah.
But that's a downside I can remember, which relates to work.
Yeah. One of the other questions we always ask is if you could take anyone from Northern Ireland out for a coffee. Anyone, can be dead, can be alive. Who would you take? Where would you take them and why?
Well, I would actually take Mary Peters because I was at one of her foundation nights the other night where they're raising money for sports people. And I'm always taken back at just how humble a person she is. I mean, she's just become a Knight of the Garter, one of only 26 in the world, which is such a fabulous and fantastic honour for anyone to be given. And as she says, you know, well, she's Lady Peters, she's just a girl from Belfast who actually was originally from Birkenhead. I think she left when she was 11, so she's part Liverpudlian as well. And every time you meet her, no one has a bad word for her. She's made everything she's done in life herself. I know lots of people who know her really well, and I've only ever said hello and pleasantries to her when I've met her. I've done some support for her trust, and I think we could learn a lot from her. I seen her the other night again, and she'd done this short talk actually on the stage, and it was brilliant. You know, if you take the achievements she got, and she just made them sound like they were nothing. Yeah. Not in a way to make herself small, just to make sure everyone else could feel involved and normal with her. And that's the one person from Northern Ireland I'd like to have a coffee with.
That's awesome. Very, very cool. Final question, Peter. It's the question we always end with. And simply as this: if we could turn this recording studio into some sort of a time machine and take you back to the 16-year-old version of yourself and if you just left school, you had a couple of minutes of 16-year-old Peter's time, what sort of advice would you give him? What would you say to him?
I would say grasp every opportunity that comes your way like it's the last one you're ever going to be given. You know, I'm always reminded of Field of Dreams. There's a great partner with Burt Lancaster. He's talking to Kevin Costner, and he said it's the last ball of the season, baseball. He said, and the coach says to me, go on there and hit the ball, Doc. And he said, it was the last ball. I got my chance. He said, and I stood there, and the ball went past me. And he said, I didn't get a home run, didn't hit the ball. He said, and I thought to myself, that's okay. There'll be other chances. There'll be other days. There'll be other balls. He said, what no one told me at that time was that was the last chance I was ever going to get. Wow. That was the last ball that was ever going to be thrown at me, because I went down from the majors to the minors the following year, and I went back to college, and he goes back to be a doctor, and he's then sitting in front of him as a guy who's been a doctor for 50 years. He said, that opportunity went past me just like that. He said, no one ever told me I was never going to get it again.
Wow.
And that's what I would tell the 16-year-old. I would say, look, opportunity looks like hard work. It comes dressed in overalls, and you want to ignore it, but grasp it. No matter how difficult it looks, no matter how much you put you out of your comfort zone, no matter it's different than anything else your friends are doing, go and do it. Because, you know, that's the path least travelled, and it may well take you where you want to go. And that's the difficulty for young middle-class people. They think they'll get lots of opportunities. And the one thing I say to people who come to our house for advice is you grasp every opportunity like it's the only one ever you're ever going to get. And you grab it, and you hold it, and you work 1,000% on it. And that's it. And that's what I would tell the 16-year-old me. And I'd like to think the 16-year-old me, whether he knew or not, did that. Maybe I've been here before. I don't know. Maybe subconsciously, I knew it was my path away from where I was.
Amazing, Peter. Thank you very much. That was class.
Okay, thank
Class.
you. No, delighted.
That was really, really awesome.